Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another Marvel Legendary set. This is for Weapon X. So this is an interesting, exciting, different set. Um, yeah, so just based on the Weapon X program, which of course famously known for making Wolverine, but dabbled with stuff with Sabretooth and Deadpool, amongst a bunch of other people. There's been several Weapon X teams as well. That came back with that. The one that came later on that was led by Agent Zero was one of the main members, but it had like Marrow and Sauron and a couple other guys in there. I think Maverick was part of it. He might have been Agent Zero if I remember. Yeah, so some interesting stuff there. We're getting some, obviously, we have Wolverine, of course, Weapon X, the iconic Weapon X. We also have Omega Red as a villain. So another neat part on here is, and different thing is on here, is we're only getting 4 heroes instead of the normal 5. So this is a little bit different. We've had other sets where we've had the bigger expansions where we've gotten like 10 heroes or so, and like that, or like 6 or 7 heroes even. But we've never had 4, which means you can play a game with 4, but typically you need 5 characters at least. You're gonna have to, obviously, you have to have a core set anyhow. We definitely gonna need one with this. But we have 3 new masterminds. Usually in these small boxes, you only get 2, so we got an additional mastermind, which is cool. We got 2 new villain groups. There's actually one other thing they don't list on there. Besides like, the schemes and stuff we're getting, we got 3 new schemes. Which is cool. But we actually have some new wounds, which are really fun. So it's a fun addition here. So yeah, without too much further ado, let's hop in and look at some of the stuff here. So we have some new keywords, returning and new keywords. I'm going to skip through some of the other character stuff. Keep them a little bit of surprise. Although we'll read the names of all of them, so it doesn't matter. We have Berserk Heroes, which started back in the X-Men set, which just says Berserk on a hero means you discard your top card of your deck. You get X plus your attack equal to the discard card's printed attack. So if it says 1, 5, 3, whatever, that's how much you get. If it does not have any symbols or it has 0, you get nothing. So if it's only recruit or it doesn't have any symbols at all, you don't get anything. And some cards have Berserk multiple times, like Berserk, Berserk, Berserk. In this case, do the Berserk effect multiple times, 1 at a time. So if the top card is a 5, you don't get 5 3 times. You get 5, and you flip the next card. And it might be a 2, then you get 2. It says, building a deck with a high printed attack to increase your chance of Berserker cards be explosively powerful. You know your special ability to set up the top card of your deck to have high cards before you play with Berserk. New addition is Berserk enemies. This is the same idea, except when you try and fight an enemy that has Berserk, discard the top card of your deck as well. Enemy gets attack equal to the discard cards. So this is kind of a blowback if you're playing with Berserk heroes. If you already have them and you attack a Berserk hero, they could become just as strong. What makes them even harder is because you have to have at least as many printed attack points as the enemy's improved attack and spend that many to defeat the enemies. So, example would be is if you were attacking, let's say Sabretooth, all right? You're attacking a Sabretooth and he has 8 and he has Berserk, right? And he flips over the top card of your deck and it's a 3. Now he has 9, 10, he has 11. So now you had to have at least 11 attack to beat him. So when you're fighting a character that has Berserk, you have to attack them with overkill amount. You can't attack them with just the short amount. You can in hope. Maybe if you stack your deck right and you know what's on there, then you might be fine, but otherwise you can't. If you don't have enough points to defeat them, you don't even attack the enemy then. You don't use their fight effect. You don't use anything on your card to say when you fight or when you defeat this. Although the upside is, you can't fight anymore that turn. Normally you can fight multiple times, but if you lose that one fight, you're done fighting. You can keep playing other cards. The upside, I guess, is that you can now heal because you haven't fought anything. So if they have multiple Berserk, you check it multiple times, just like you do for your hero. But once you start a fight, you can't play any more cards until after the fight is complete. So once you've committed, I have 10 attack, I am attacking an 8-cost character, you can't add any more things to that. Once you've said you're attacking them, you can't add anything else. So So cool. And then they have fail, which you see on some other cards before. Basically, if you fight and you can't beat them for some reason, I think some of these were with like size changing and stuff like that. If you do the fail effect, you try and fight that enemy, but the berserk bonus causes you to fail. You can't try to fight the enemy unless you have enough points to match his printed attack. So you can't even, like, for some reason, if you want to purposefully fail, I don't know why you would, but that's like Sabretooth has 8, you can't choose to attack with 7 to know that you're going to fail. You have to attack with at least 8, and then hope that you draw a card that's high, at least 1 higher. Then we have Weapon X Sequence. The lethal success of the Weapon Plus program comes from the relentless iteration on Science of Death. So on a hero, Weapon X Sequence means you get plus attack equal to the longest sequence of different printed cost cards of your cards. Your cards include both cards you play this turn and cards in your hand. So for example, if you have a 0, 4, 2, 7, 3, and 3, each time you play a card with Weapon X Sequence, you get plus 3, since you have a sequence of 2, 3, 4. Each number of sequence must be 1 higher than the previous, including 0, and you can't skip numbers. So if you have 0, 0, 0, 4, 4, and 6, although you have 3 zeros and 2 4s, that doesn't matter, because you need 0, 1, or 3, 4, or if you have 5, you can have 4, 5, 6, or you have 6, 7. But you need 2 numbers at least in a row. But bare minimum, you at least get 1, because every card in your hand is always going to have at least 1 cost. After you play a Weapon X Sequence, if you draw more cards later that would extend the sequence, it's too late. So as soon as you play the card, it gives you that extra bonus, and then it's done. If you have double, it doubles it up. So that's pretty cool. But hey, look, enemies also get Weapon X Sequence. This means the enemy gets attacked equal to the longest sequence among cards in the HQ. So it works the same way, they're just in the HQ. So of course, this means that you might have to buy something and maybe break that chain. But at least you kind of just see ahead of time. Doesn't matter which HQ spaces those cards are in, or if any of them are fit or any particular order. One clever move is to recruit a hero from HQ at the right time, disrupt enemies, Weapon X Sequence before you fight them. Yeah, so you can pull a guy out and drop him from 4 to 2. Printed attack and printed cost. Just as a note, because of these abilities, it's whatever is physically printed on the card. Doesn't matter if it says plus, because it has an ability that adds it, or as an asterisk, which might change it to up or down based on something else. It's whatever is physically printed on the card. So if it's saying, like, whatever, you flip over a card, you get 2, even if the thing's like, oh, when you play this card, like with another this, that, or whatever, you get plus 3. Doesn't matter. It's always going to be 2. And then divided cards always, that is going to count whatever cost is on there. It doesn't list this on there, but I believe it just costs, you pick one side of it. You don't get to add them up. So if like you had one that had 2 attack and one that had 3 attack, you could pick the 3 attack and then you get that bonus. You don't get 5 for it. Alright, then we have brand new wounds. We'll look at those in a minute, because I want to look at those at the end, but we have some brand new wounds. But let's hop into our characters. Alright, we're going to start with the man himself, the best at what he does, and what he does isn't nice. This is Weapon X Wolverine. So we've had a regular Wolverine, we've had the X-Force Wolverine before, we've had Wolverine with Colossus, and then now we have this Wolverine. So we have a couple different Wolverines over. He's part of the Marvel Knights team. Which kind of makes sense. I guess either I would have had him in that, or you would have had him be part of no team. It's kind of like a solo act. Because at this time, you kind of idea he wasn't really part of the X-Men at the moment. So we have his common card. We have instinct card, Raging Regeneration, who has Berserker, has cost of 4, has plus 2 plus attacks. It says instant. You may KO a wound from your hand or discard pile if you do Berserk again. So nice, he comes out, he's going to gain potentially a bonus, and then if you have another instant card, and a wound in your hand or discard pile, which again, this set comes with wounds, so we're probably going to be dealing a bunch of them. That could be cool. They could hurt Logan. They could chain him, but they couldn't break him. So that could definitely be a fun one. Alright, our other common is a tech card. Cost 5, Digi2. It says Infused Skeleton with Adamantium. To play this card, you must put another card from your hand on top of your deck. Weapon X sequence. Now this one is Sting of It. Yeah, so you're going to gain your bonus based on your sequences of cards in your hand. Also note though, because you're doing this, you're giving up one of your cards. It's going to potentially make your sequence one less. But what's also neat about this is because you can stack your deck for a berserker card. So you can play this, then throw a high cost card you have on top of your deck, if you can afford to. You know, maybe like, I'm not going to be able to do a lot of damage this, or I'm going to do a lot of damage this turn, but like, do I get rid of, play this card with 5 cost, or do I put it back on top of my deck, not play a berserker this time, you know, but then you'll draw it next turn. So there's some different options you could do there. Very neat. Alright, for our uncommon, which we have 3 copies of, we have Violent Conditioning. Here's with this big giant bull helmet and all his wires. Another instant card, costs 3, does 2. So it's one of those cards that cost 2. When you gain a you may gain a wound if you do double berserk. Weapon plus scientist who tortured Logan would come to regret your choices, but not for very long. Ooh, that's grim. So this is kind of neat too. So he gets a double berserk there. Sets up. Starts really low attack because berserk is going to pump up quite a bit. Then his ultimate card, Escape the Weapon X Lab. Another instinct card, so there's lots of instincts. Weapon X sequence, costs 6, does 3. So let's see, 6 for 3. That in itself is obviously very terrible. But the way Weapon X sequence works is the longer the stretch you have, the more powerful it's gonna get. So like, even if you figure on average you have 3, you could get 3 cards. Like, that makes this a 6 for 6, which isn't too terrible. I mean, it's not the best in and of itself. Worst case is you have 1, so 6 for 4 is pretty bad by itself. But you could also, on the other hand, you could get it up to 5 if you plan very well. You have some like extra draw cards and stuff like that. If you play an instant card though, you may reveal from the wound deck until you're revealing Enraging Wound. Gain that Raging Wound into your hand, put the other revealed cards back onto the bottom. If you gain a wound this way, berserk. Cool. Okay, so that definitely makes it a little bit more powerful. I would say though, if you don't have an Enraging Wound, you decide not to play with them, you could just take a wound. Or you could opt to take a draw random wound or play a grievous wound if you're playing them from Civil War. Or if you really want to, be like, well, we don't want to have all the Enraging Wounds in the deck. Like, no, you probably just have them set aside even. And just be like, okay, so if Wolverine plays this one card, Wolverine gets the 1 Enraging Wound anytime he plays this. He's the only guy that would get it. If you even do it that way. But yeah, that lets you berserk, which could definitely then also increase this potentially a lot more. So this has potential to be really good, but it has a bunch of hindrances to do that. Because Weapon X sequence, depending on what you have in your hand and are prepped, which you only have so much control over, as well as berserk, which again depends on if you are lucky enough to draw something good or stack your deck well enough. And then the other one would be as if you have an instant card. So I'd say it's a mid card. It's not the best. It has potential to be super powerful, but it can also be very bad. Again, don't have a good sequence. Don't have an instant card, so you can't get the berserk. You know, or if you are playing with Enraged Wounds and for some reason there's none left in the deck, and you might be like, well, the ability doesn't trigger anyhow. You know. So alright, our next Weapon X member wasn't part of the Weapon Plus program, but was part of the extra Weapon X team that was ran, which is a Marrow, also known as Sarah, who's a Morlock, hung out in the Morlock tunnels. The Morlock massacre happened, one of the few that survived, thanks to Angel, so she really loves Angel for that. This is more like her after she joined the X-Men form. She has the X-Force team. So I don't know if she's ever properly part of X-Force, but I can definitely see her. They put her in there versus X-Men, even though she actually was an X-Men. But yeah, this after they kind of gave her, she went to space and she had a machine or whatever. Gambit helped her out. Got control of her abilities, so they weren't randomly growing everywhere. Um, yeah, so she has hyper adaptive skeleton. She can pull bones out of her body and use them as weapons. So she has, for 2 cost, one recruit, 1 attack. For all your heroes' berserker abilities this turn, you get berserker cards printed star, just like you get their printed attack. And if she plays another strength card, she gains berserk. Oh, that's cool. So if you team her up with other characters that have stars, she can gain a lot more. And they might not be as high, because those don't tend to be a lot. But you have potential gaining more numbers. So that's pretty fun. We have 5 copies of that, because it's a common. We have 5 copies of Bone Shard, which is a ranged attack for 3, and does 2, has, if you play an X-Force character, gain Berserk. Cool. Sticks and stones grow from her bones, and both of them can hurt you. That's funny. Yeah, very simple one, but extra Berserk, pretty easy to get. The third one, her uncommon, she has 3 costs. Osteogenesis, formation of bones, or bone control. She can kind of control where her bones can grow. So it has 6 costs, which is pretty hefty for an uncommon. 1 star, recruit, and 2 attack. Draw 2 cards, put a card from your hand on top of your deck. So stacking for Berserk. She got bone to pick with the race's mutant hunters. Alright, then she has her ultimate, Metabolic Overdrive. She lets her bones go everywhere. This is actually a covert card. She hasn't had a covert. She has 1 for each color. Strength. Oh no, she says strength, range, strength, and covert. I thought she had an instinct in there. She just has Weapon X sequence as well. Cost 7 for 3. Again, we just kind of said with Wolverine 6 for 3 wasn't very good. Wasn't by itself isn't that good. 7 for 3 is actually even worse then. But does have, again, that potential with Weapon X sequence. It's hard to really just justifiably say this is good or bad, because it depends on what you can set up and what you personally buy. If you buy a bunch of 4-cost cards and that's it, or only buy 2-cost cards, then you're not going to. But if you buy a bunch of different ones and you have a good chance of setting up that sequence, it could be very powerful. It says right here, the top 6 cards of your deck, discard all the ones that are 0 and put the rest back in any order. Interesting. So what is the purpose of this? The idea of this would be is if you then have Berserker cards, they're probably going to be a lot better, because your 0 cards are going to be your shield agents. So you're like your one recruit or 1 attack. I don't think there are any 0-cost character cards. There's some ones, but I don't know if there's any 0-cost. Also then, if you have a bunch of card draws after this, now you know you're drawing a bunch of really good cards. And you can put them back in any order. So like if you all of a sudden you play a card that gives you 2 draw right after this, and you know, oh, I need a 3 and a 5 to complete like a 5-thing sequence, you can stack your deck if you can. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Again, this is one just like Wolverine's, where it's like it's high cost for by itself. If the abilities don't trigger right, it is pretty bad. But if the abilities trigger great, this could be a very powerful card. Cool. Alright, our third character is we have another Weapon Plus character. We have Phantomex, who is Weapon 13? Why does that not sound right? I thought 13 was, yeah, he might be 12. Might be Weapon 12. They'll probably tell us on one of these cards. Yeah, Phantomex was created. He can use hypnotic abilities, basically. He has an extra brain. 2 extra brains, actually. So he also used sentient bullets that he made from the Skinless Man. Interesting thing. Sharpshooters often debate which bullets are most accurate. Of course, the one bullet coated in sentient skin. So we have a 1-cost card. Has 0 bonus for it, but again, doesn't have anything but Weapon X sequence to help it. But starting with 1 Means even if you have a 0 shield agent, now you have 2. So it's going to lots of times gain at least potentially a 2 bone, cost at least 2. It wouldn't be too hard to get a 3 maybe. We haven't seen a 3 yet though. We have a 7, a 6, yeah, Marrow had a 3, and a 2, Wolverine has 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, so Wolverine has a run like that. And Marrow's is 2 and 3 and 6 and 7. So they have a couple. Alright, his second common with 5 copies as well is 3 Brains, which we just mentioned. It's a tech card, costs 0 recruit, 2 cost. Weapon X sequence getting stars instead of attack. You get at least 3 stars this way, draw a card. Oh, that's fun. So you just could get more recruit that way. One Brain specializes in analyzing people, another in killing them. But Ava is the only brain that can detach from his body. It's cool. Yeah, Ava's this giant flying ship. We even had a lot of recruits. Marrow had 1 star on her 1 card and 1 on her other. I don't think Wolverine had any. Wolverine just had attack. So yeah, out of the 3 characters so far, we've had 2 stars worth of recruit, and his has 0 with the potential of getting higher. It's very interesting. Not a lot of recruiting so far in this set. So your 5th character you're going to pick is probably going to have to be someone that has a lot of recruitment cards. Alright, we have 3 copies of Misdirection. This is his special ability. It kind of creates like falsified memories or images. Kind of like telepathy, but like very more limited scope. So of course he's also X-Force as well. And then he has Covert, Weapon X Sequence. It's a 3 cost. It's a 1, 2, and a 3. When you draw a new hand this turn, draw an extra card, then put a card from your hand on top of your deck. Dead stacking up for your berserker abilities or future turns. Interesting. And then his ultimate is Weapon 13. Okay, he was 13. I thought he was 12 for some reason. Weapon X sequence is 1 attack. So he doesn't have a lot of attack either. But he has a 4 cost ultimate, which is 4 cost for 1. Is probably pretty bad as well. But again, Weapon X sequence can tend to make it very powerful. Tech card. You may KO one of your cards as the same cost as any of your other cards. Interesting. So this could be a way, like, early on if you bought a bunch of, like, 2s or 3s, just because they were cheap and you needed cards, but then as you, later on you play it, you can start KOing your duplicate cards. You can try and get more of a string of cards every time. There's also an interesting idea for the Weapon X sequence. If you planned it right, it'd be risky to do, but if you dropped your hand down to like 5 cards, then you draw every turn, but every card's in a sequence order. So everyone has Weapon X, means you gain 5 every turn on every card, right? So even at the bare minimum, their cost is 1 or 0. You have 5 cards, that'd be 25 every turn. Like if you just keep KOing or just buying enough cards and then slowly start KOing all your 0s, that could be interesting of him. He can just have a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and all of a sudden, now he has a run of 5 cards every single turn. All he has are those 5 cards, but he's gonna have 25. Well, I guess if he has a 0, he wouldn't, but the other 4, that's 20, plus whatever the other attacks are. So 20 every turn. That's very few things that stand up to that. Thanos, Galactus, that's about it, very cool. Alright, and then our last character is Weapon H. So this is a offshoot of the Weapon Plus program. Kind of, they went away from the numbers. And they made a Hulk Wolverine variant. So this is a guy, like, kind of both Hulk and Wolverine stuff. We're seeing some of the pictures here. He's an Avengers character, too, so that's kind of cool. I don't know if he's, again, part of the Avengers, but he might have been for a bit. But we have an Instinct, so he has 0 recruit and 2 attack for 4. You may have this card make all recruit instead of attack, including the below ability. If you have instinct, you get +1 attack. So cool. So you could, if you could give him instead, have it be 2 recruit instead, or you could have it become 3. So basically, he's a smart human or he's a big giant beast, which is very helpful. This set, again, these characters really need some extra recruits, so that's a great way to do it. We have 5 copies of the Future of Warfare. So here he has his big giant Wolverine claws. And then he has 3 costs, 2 attack. With a top card of your deck, discard it or put it back. If you play a strength card, do Berserk. Yes, you could plan it out that way. Step 1, combine the powers of Hulk and Wolverine. Step 2, auction the highest bidder. Step 3, buy health insurance. That's funny. Alright, our third one are uncommon. We have 3 copies of Slice and Smash. 5 costs for 2 attack with Berserk. If you play another strength, you may KO the card you berserked. Interesting. So again, you could possibly like eliminate a lower level card if you wanted to. So you berserk and you flip over a recruit card. You're like, I'm done recruiting. You can get rid of that and just have more berserk cards every time, and then you can get rid of your lower ones. So then every time you're playing a berserk, much like the Weapon H sequence, if you had less cards, you're always drawing stuff that you need for your sequence. Here you could plan, oh, I'm going to keep getting rid of all these lower level cards I have. Here Berserk hits for higher every time. If you didn't enjoy getting punched by Hulk strength, you definitely will enjoy when they added claws. That's awesome. Alright, and then our ultimate, our 8 cost one, if you haven't had an 8 cost card, Ultimate Killing Machine. Another strength card. All 4 of his strength. No, he has the instinct at the beginning. That's right. So 8 for 4. Again, in itself and of itself, that's pretty terrible. But again, he has Weapon X sequence, which makes it could be very good. But then look at this. He has, if you play a strength card using the wound deck, Berserker, Berserk, 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 6 times. Putting those cards, those discarded wounds into the bottom of the wound deck. If you're playing with regular wounds, that won't mean a darn thing. Because regular wounds don't have attacks printed on them. Not that I recall. They're more for the new ones, the enraging wounds. But then you're supposed to have 40 cards of these, which I didn't read in the rules. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 of the 40 that you're supposed to have will all have attacks on them. I think not all of them. Some of them will have attacks. So that's interesting. Using the wound deck for berserkers, putting those discarded wounds in the bottom of the deck. It's only going to reveal if they have the attack. Do the grievous wounds have any of those? I wonder. I have to look that up. Yeah. So yeah, I'll use the raging ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. 9 of the 10 have an attack. Some of them are 1 to 3. So yeah, interesting. 6 times, but yeah. So the first, see, if it's only these 10 cards out of the 40 card deck you have to make for wounds, you might miss a lot because other people may have grabbed some already, or you just might miss it. You could go through 6 cards of 40 and never hit one of these cards. Then obviously the next time, but that, in my sense, my gameplay experience, it's not worth it. I think most of the time, these ultimate cards, because of when they cost like this, 7, 8, 9, you get them out maybe twice per game, if you're lucky. Once for sure, generally, maybe twice. If you're super lucky, maybe a third time. But usually by the time you get it out and you get it through your entire deck, because you have decent sized decks, you only get it about twice and then the game is over. Either you've lost or you've won. So hoping to discard 12 of that for a really big benefit isn't that great. Yeah, so interesting. It's a neat ability though. Alright, so I just did a quick look up The Grievous wounds from Civil War do not have any. So yeah, this is kind of an interesting berserk mechanic. Because again, there's nothing ever has you shuffle or look through there. So again, it triggers 6 times, but you might only hit it once, maybe twice. You might get lucky and hit it all 6 times, right? But if you do, that's 6 of your 10, and then you're probably never gonna hit it the rest of the time. Even if you say you hit it half the time and you hit it 3 times, again, you hit 3 times out of 1 time, hit 3 the next time, that's 6. Again, assuming nobody's ever got it, you probably won't hit it anymore after that. So even 3 puts up to 4, 5, 6. I mean, it could be you hit it once and you get a 3, that's 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 for 8 is pretty okay. But yeah, that's if you hit one of them, it might be helpful. But you again could very easily miss all of them. All right. So now as we're talking about the enraging wounds, why don't we read about them quick? So raging wounds, there's 10 of them. Give you a burst of power while requiring new ways to heal them. Shuffle all 10 new wounds into the wound deck face down. Mixed with normal wounds, you have at least 40 total wounds. Also include any other special wounds you have, like grievous wounds from Legendary Civil War. So I like that. I hope they make more stuff like that. You can play Raging Wounds from your hand or during your turn, giving you recruit, attack, or other special effects. So normally, the regular wounds, they just clog up your hand. Grievous wounds cause extra debilitations. These actually give you a bonus. It's just kind of nice to have them. Each enraging wound has its own unique healing ability, though. Like healing, when you defeat a henchman in your turn, you may KO this wound. You can use this healing ability during your turn, either after you played an enraging wound or while it's still in your hand. So that's kind of different. They have other different ways to get rid of them, but they're going to be a little bit more tricky. Unlike the healing abilities on normal wounds, the KO abilities on enraging wounds don't prevent you from recruiting and fighting that turn. So yeah, you can heal. It's neat. So you can do specific thing if you KO a guy or do this. You can then still heal that turn. Raging wounds still count as wounds for all card effects. They cause 0, can't recruit them. All that stuff. If you're using normal wounds ability to kill all wounds from your hand, that will kill all enraging wounds from your hand too, but they won't kill any wounds you played since they're not played. So keep that in mind though. If you have a couple enraging wounds and for some reason you want to keep them for their attack, maybe using for berserk, or whatever else, you have to play them that turn before you heal with everything else, even if you don't attack or anything. Because if they're still in your hand, you have to get rid of them. It's not an optional keep some wounds, get rid of some wounds. Some sets put wounds on enemies, ignoring raging. Basically ignore all the text on there. They're just wounds. They're cool. Let's take a look at those guys. They're all going to have the same artwork. But they're all 10 different cards. You have erratic powers. So Wolverine clawing his way out of the ground. To play this card, you must discard 3 cards, then draw a card. So yeah, here's the kicker of that, right? It's going to give you 3 attack, but you have to discard 3 cards to do it. As healing, when you use a superpower ability this turn, you may KO this wound. So there's other ways to get rid of it than just waiting around, which is kind of cool, because other wounds, you have to sit there and like, if you have 1 wound in your hand, you're kind of just like, whatever, I'll just play with 1 less card, right? I have other things I can do. If you had 2, unless you had a kind of bad hand, you probably played it. 3 is when you kind of got in that range where it might be worth getting rid of these. But if you had anything over 3, for sure, you were probably just sacrificing your turn to get rid of them. These are kind of nice. It might be worth discarding 3 cards from your hand, drawing a card, so you still have, you're still only losing 2 cards then, but to be able to play this and then potentially heal it. Broken Bones. To play this card, you must put another card from your hand on top of your deck. That just sets you up for Berserker. Why is that a bad thing at all for you? Right? It gets a card out of your hand, but you can set up for Berserker that way at least. Healing. When you draw a card this turn, including drawing this card, but not drawing a new hand. When you draw a card this turn, including drawing this card, but but not drawing the hand your turn, you may KO this wound. Interesting. So you could draw this card and literally heal it at the same time. Massive blood loss. To play this card, you must discard a card. Healing when you discard a card this turn, not including discarding to play this card or discarding at the end of your turn, you may KO a wound. Concussion. Healing when you play 2 cards of the same hero class this turn, you may KO this wound. This one doesn't have any cost to play it. Last breath. To play this, you must gain a wound to the top of your deck. Healing, when you KO another wound this turn, you may KO this wound. That's 4 though, so that's pretty crazy. We have one with recruiting, a sudden terror. Healing, when you recruit a hero that costs 7 or more this turn, you may KO this wound. Shell shock. Healing, when you recruit 2 heroes this turn, you may KO this wound, but 1 for each. Blazing Vengeance. You may healing when you defeat a mastermind tactic this turn, you may KO this wound. Insult and Injuries. Healing when you defeat a villain worth at least 2 victory points this turn, you may KO this wound. And Wild Rage. Healing when you defeat a henchman this turn, you may KO this wound. So like the ones that don't give as much attack don't have cost to play them. But that's a really fun concept, is adding more wounds to the deck. Just to give you something different, because that way if you're getting wounds, at least it's not just like, oh, I got a wound, it's in my hand. Ugh, how boring. So that's kind of fun. Alright, let's hop into our masterminds. We're going to start with Omega Red. Artie something or other? I haven't, it's Rad something or other. This is some crazy artwork, though, for these cards. I will say that. So Omega Red gets +2 attack while you have any wounds, and +2 attack with any wounds in your discard pile. Doesn't get 2 for each, just 2 as long as you have some. When you KO any wounds for the first time in a turn, put down the bottom of the wound deck and gain a wound to the bottom of your deck. So basically, if you get rid of wounds, he's just going to give you another one. He always leads any villain group. Doesn't really have any loyalty, so it's kind of fun, just a villain that can team up with anybody. Master Strike, each player discards one of their covert heroes or gains a wound. Doesn't like stealth. Now, I don't think there's that many covert in here. I think we had uncommon for Phantom X, and I think it was just, that might have been it, and that was it in the rare for the ultimate for Marrow. So yeah, not a ton of covert in here, but, you know, you end up playing Black Widow if you want to have a rushing team against him. Then you'll have a lot of covert there. Alright, then if we flip him over, his 10 health or attack, we flip him to the other side, Epic. His wound ability goes up to 3. Whenever you KO any wounds, put them on the bottom of the wound deck and gain a wound to the bottom of your deck. Each player KOs one of their covert heroes or gains a wound. It goes up to 12. So KOs a covert hero, gains a wound, and this one was either discards it. So their KOing is even worse. Alright, his tactics are the Carbonium Synthesizer. Fight, you may return a wound from your hand or any player's discard pile to the bottom of the wound deck. If you do, draw a card. Draining Life Force uses his tendrils there to suck life force out of people. It is an active final tactic, and you have at least 2 wounds in your hand and or discard pile. Return all of them to the bottom of the wound deck and shuffle this tactic back into Omega Red's other tactics. Death Pheromones. Fight, each player would discard a tech hero or gain a wound. Just as Wolverine has a healing factor, Omega Red brings a death factor. And then the Carbonium Tentacles. After you draw a new hand of cards at the end of this turn, each player discards down to 3 cards or gains a wound. Nice, that kind of hurts. Awesome. So cool. Yeah, cool new villain. Does some interesting stuff, likes to play around with the wounds a lot, which is, again, a fun thing. Plus, there's some heroes out there that really like wounds, playing with, like, Hulk or, any of the Hulk characters generally like them, so that'd be kind of interesting. Alright, our next mastermind we're going to jump into Romulus. So he was one of the newer wars for Wolverine. Kind of like behind the scenes of water, controlling what was going on with Wolverine's stuff and everything. So he has Weapon X sequence, so he's going to gain that ability based on sequences in the HQ. Always leads Weapon Plus, so he's kind of like behind that a little bit. Master Strike. Each player reveals that they have a greater Weapon X sequence than Romulus or gains a wound. Now, if this is a 5th strike this game, this strike becomes a Steam Twist and takes effect immediately. Ooh, that's kind of cool. So after you get more strikes in there, he keeps getting them, and he's got more Steam Twist hitting, which is going to end the game quicker. He's only at 9 though, but he has Weapon X sequence, so he could easily gain a lot more depending on what you have in there. And if we flip and goes Mastermind, he goes up to 10. But he has double Weapon X sequence, now he gains twice as much. Then each player that reveals to have a greater Weapon X sequence than Romulus, don't double the sequence for this, or gain wounds for the top of their deck. If this is a 3rd strike, it becomes a Steam Twist that takes effect immediately, so it hits even quicker. That's going to be a pain. Alright, so we have Take Over the Weapon X program. Fight. You get Recruit equal to the attack Romulus is gaining from Weapon X sequence. Romulus push the program to new depths of cruelty. Master of Steeds. Fight. If this is not the last tactic, reveal the top 2 cards of the villain deck, play a Master Strike or Steam Twist from among them, putting the rest back in any order. Ew. That's ew. Bite of the Muramasa Blade. Each other player reveals 3 cards with different adjacent costs, like 2, 3, or 4, or gains a wound. Interesting. That could be really hard to do. So he's going to be handing out wounds as well. Anoint an heir to take my place. If this is not the last tactic, a hero from the HQ that costs 6 or more ascends to become an additional mastermind with attack equal to its printed cost and only these abilities. Fight. Choose a player to gain this as a hero, and then Master Strike. Each player discards a card of this hero class or gains a wound. That's fun. Anything that lets you make more masterminds is always crazy. You need to make like a mastermind template card though, like, right? So you can, like, it'd be cool to have just like almost an oversized card or something, just to slide any character behind, like just like a clear insert. So it'd be like, you know, just gotta make one so it's like here's like the name of the character or something, like, right? And here's like the new ability they have. You could slide the card like underneath it, like it's a clear picture. And then you'd be like, oh yeah, here's all their new abilities. That's just me. All right, we have Weapon Plus here. So we have 2 copies of Nuke, who is Weapon 7. So Nuke is more known as probably being, I always bought Wolverine a bunch, but I think it's kind of like mixed between like Wolverine, Punisher, Captain America, kind of like the military American issue thing. Better on. He takes his pills though as adrenaline pills. So he has Weapon X sequence. So he's only 2, so it's not hard to begin with normally, but he can get pretty big. Reveal the top card of the hero deck as Nuke's adrenaline pill. If it's a covert card, he gains rage, which is his red pill. Each other player gains a wound. If it's a yellow, which is normally his white pill, he gains bounce. He draws a card, or if it's a blue, he gains relax, which gets you 2 star. Escape, each player gains a wound. But again, because he has Weapon X sequence, as soon as you fight him, you're going to then figure out what his, obviously you'll know what it is ahead of time, because you'll be able to look at what's in there. But yeah, that's a pretty cool effect there. Then after that, we have 2 copies of Typhoid Mary, Weapon 9. So right before Wolverine, she's lots of times a Daredevil villain, sometimes a Spider-Man villain, also been in general an X-Men villain, because she is a mutant. Split personalities. One of them is Mary, who's just kind of like, her personality's on. This is kind of a neat mechanic here. So she also has Weapon X sequences. Fight. Reveal the top card of the hero deck as her personality. If it's green, for strength, it's Typhoid. Put a card from your discard pile on top of the deck and play it. Discard pile on top of the deck. Put a card from your discard pile on top of the deck of the player to your left. Oh, give away one of your cards. That sucks. So I think that's her telekinesis ability. If it's instinct, it's Mary, which is kind of like her, just like general like meek self. So she rests as a bystander. If it's red covert, it's Bloody Mary. Each other player gains a wound. I believe that's her pyrokinesis version. Tactics mutant 0, KO one of your cards that cost 0. I think that's like her assassin version, might be. And then blue is Walker. Put a card you play this turn on top of your deck. Yeah, so interesting. So she gets, that's a cool effect. I wish we had more cards like that, where cards gained abilities based on what was played. Alright, then we have one copy of Huntsman, who is weapon 12. So it has Weapon X sequence as well. So they kind of usually start with small attacks to begin with. They're not starting with like 8 or 9 or something. Ambush. Reveal the top 3 cards of the hero deck. Huntsman captures each of those, costs 4 or less. Put the rest on the bottom of the hero deck. Ooh, okay. So when they capture them, they go underneath them. 5. Huntsman has captured any heroes. Choose a player to gain one of them, or return the Huntsman in his city's to his city space with the rest of them. Ignore this ambush. Oh, so he comes in, he could potentially have 3 bodyguards that you have to defeat him 3 times to eventually take out all of them, and then the 4th time to beat him. That's cool. We have the Skinless Man, weapon 3, which was mentioned with Phantom X, where his bullets came from. Went to Otherworld. So Weapon X sequence is 3 attack. Ambush, Skinless Man, capture a bystander of your choice from the victory pile. If you don't have one, gain a wound. He captures one from the bystander deck. Cool. We have Ultimaton, weapon 15, so way past Wolverine. With 4 is double global Weapon X sequence. It's going to be a little bit harder to beat. Ambush. Each player discards a non-gray hero. Fight. Each player KOs one of their gray heroes. And escape. Each player KOs one of their non-gray heroes. So it's going to be very tricky. It's going to cautious and stuff. And our last weapon plus character is Dakin, who is Wolverine's son. Wasn't technically directly part of the Weapon X program, but he was, Romulus worked with him and stuff like that. So he has Weapon X sequence, and he has Berserk, so he's going to gain an extra bonus on top of anything. If you fight him, KO one of your heroes. If you fail, you gain a wound. So that's going to suck. I don't know if we have him as a playable character. It'd be cool to get him, so you could have him and Laura and that and all that. Would be really neat. Alright, then our last mastermind for this set is good old Victor Krieg Sabretooth. Sabretooth berserks once for each savagery stacked here. Always leads the berserkers. Master Strike. Stack this strike next to Sabretooth as savagery. Each player KOs one of their heroes that costs more than the number of savageries. Any player that cannot do so gains a wound instead. Fail, KO a non-gray hero discarded by Sabretooth's berserking. So he starts with 8, which is already a little hard. I think every strike he gets, he's going to gain an extra savage. So eventually he could have 5 strikes. And he could have 5 berserkers. Which can make him very powerful. Plus, each one, the knowledge is going to KO one of your bigger and bigger, potentially KO one of your cards. So the first one, if he gets one, it's like, oh, he has 1. Okay, so you have to KO, or sorry, it's a Master Strike. When you get a Master Strike, yeah, he's going to KO, like, anything higher than 1. Okay, you have some options, right? But when he starts getting, like, 5, now you're potentially KOing one of your best cards or gaining a wound. Crazy. Alright, then if we flip him to his other side, he goes up to 9. Berserks once for each savagery, plus 2 more times. He's always going to berserk at least twice. And then KO one of their heroes should cost at least 2 more than the number of them. So you're going to definitely be KOing all your big cards. That's Sabretooth for you. Suddenly Savagery. Fight. Stack this card from the wound deck next to this Sabretooth have a Savagery. Oh, you can get an additional one. Awesome. Sabretooth's language words toy with his prey like sadistic attack, interrupting an explosion of violence. Salivating Prowl. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, draw one of them, and discard one, put the other back on top of your deck. Lethal Fangs. KO a gray hero discard by Sabretooth's Berserking. You can't KO cards shuffled into your deck during the Berserking. And lastly, Adamantium Laced Claws. Each other player reveals an instant hero Danger Wound. With similar powers and similar savagery, Logan and Victor Crate have hunted each other across decades and continents. So cool. That's pretty straightforward. Just gonna have a lot of extra attack boosts. They're gonna be sort of random. Alright, then for the Berserkers, we have, this is gonna be crazy, we have Cyber, a bunch of Wolverine villains, who has double Berserker, so you never know how much he's gonna gain. Fight. KO one of your heroes. If any of the cards you berserk were instinct or text, shuffle Cyber into the villain deck, then play another card from the villain deck. Fail. Each player discards an instinct or text hero. Danger Wound. Fail to do the effect. That sucks because if you get one of them, you automatically can't basically beat him, but you don't defeat him fully. So interesting there. This is also interesting. So we have 2 copies of Wild Child. I get that he was also under Romulus' thing. I'm not sure why they used the Age of Apocalypse art. I get maybe because they wanted to show Sabretooth as well, and someone's like, oh yeah, I use Sabretooth. But it's not the same one. So it's very interesting. They should have just used like a regular version of Wild Child. Even like one of the X-Men versions would have been, or Alpha Flight versions would have been more preferable. But he has triple Berserker. Fight, KO one of the cards you berserk this way, that costs 0. Fail, KO a card discarded by Wild Child Berserk, and it costs 1 or more. We have 2 copies of Thorn, one of the cat-like characters, because that was the whole thing with Romulus, though even have a Sabretooth, but with Romulus, which is kind of like went after the bestial characters. Sabretooth, Beast, Sasquatch, Thorn, Feral. So you guys see those guys. So she has Berserk. Ambush. Choose a card named Feral from any player's discard pile to enter the city as a villain. Fight. Draw the card you berserked. And fail when you draw a new hand at the end of turn, discard a card. Cool. Alright, so the last card we have are 3 copies of Feral. So I don't think she's banging anything else, but she's an X-Force character. So that's fun. We at least get her as a potential character. Instinct. So Berserk, fight, KO player to gain this as a hero. Fail, KO a non-gray hero. And escape, each player discards a non-gray hero. And if you have her, she has 2 costs for attack, or 2 attack. And she has double Berserk with an instinct. And then, yeah, Thorn can bring her back into play. They're sisters that kind of help each other out. Draws a sister away from the side of good long enough to help her. Pretty interesting. She's worked with Cable's team a lot. Cool. Alright, then the last 3 things we have are our schemes. We have Wipe Heroes' Memories. Setup. Twist equal the number of players plus 4. Twist. Forget your past. If you have any face-up villains or tactics in your victory pile, put one of them on the bottom of your victory pile face down, then shuffle this twist back into the villain deck. Then play a card from the villain deck. If you don't have any face-up villains or tactics, instead stack the twist next to the scheme as a total memory wipe. Interesting. Special. Face down cards in your victory pile count as not being there at all until you count their VIPs. You can't use them for any other effects. Evil wins when they're 4 total memory wipes. So it's like, it's kind of nice to have it, not have one. Because in that way, you don't have to play another villain. But if you don't, then you're 1 away from winning. But yeah, interesting, because if it's villain or tactic, which is basically your VP is, but you could potentially either A, have a a bystander in there on top, which can cause issues. Well, all that means if you rescue one after capturing a villain, to make sure the villain's on top. But again, you have to then somehow get rid of that, otherwise it's still going to be there when you flip this next card over. Or two, if you're just not defeating guys quick enough. Interesting. Condition Logan into Weapon X. Set up 8 schemes include exactly one hero with Wolverine or Logan in its name. Twists 1, 3, and 5 induce a violent rage. If you don't defeat an enemy worth 2 victory points or more this turn, then after you draw a new hand at the end of this turn, each player discards down to 4 cards. Twist 2, 4, and 6 test subject healing factor. Each player discards a strength or instinct card, or hero or gains a wound. 7. Unleash Weapon X. Reach Wolverine and or Logan in the HQ. Each player gains a wound. And 8 evil wins. Okay, so it just kind of gives you like little struggles on odd numbers, a little different struggle on even numbers, and then basically too much things you can win the game. They'll win the game. Alright, then our last one is Go After Loved Ones. Oh, it's Silver Fox. Add an extra hero. Don't use multiple heroes that have the same name. So don't use multiple Wolverines, for example. 1 player, 8 twists. 2 to 4 players, 10 twists. 5 players, 11 twists. Set aside the lowest cost card for each hero face up with... Set aside a lowest cost card for each hero name face up with 2 face up bystanders under it as loved ones. Twist 1 through 6. KO the hero the rightmost HQ space. KO one of that hero's loved ones. Each player discards a card of that hero name. If you discard a card displayed during your turn, berserk. If that hero name has no loved ones, that hero is lost in grief. KO all that hero name from the KO and hero deck, then shuffle it. 7 through 11, do it twice. Evil when the hero deck runs out. Ooh, that's kind of fun. So basically, it's like, you know, let's say you play these 4 characters: Phantom X, Weapon H, Marrow, Weapon X Wolverine. You have Wolverine, and then you have to have 2 extra characters. So let's just say you want other Weapon X characters. So let's say we grabbed Nightcrawler and I'm trying to think who another Weapon X character we had was. Let's just say we grabbed Cable as well, right? He's teaming up with them, great. So yeah, so then you put 2 bystanders on each one, and every twist you grab, you KO the first character. So you kind of want to make sure you're rotating the characters in your thing or buying them so that that's not going to keep happening. Or you're not going to keep getting rid of the same one, because then once 2 of them are gone, you KO all that stuff, so now you don't have access to that character more. So you could get super unlucky and the first 2 twists could hit the same. Oh crap, it hit Wolverine twice. Boom, now you don't have any more Wolverines to play. That could really change up the deck. One thing interesting though, because how the normals are played is all the hero deck stays, the HQ stays the same, and then as you draw a new card, you replace the old one. The way I play the game is whenever we take in one, we shuffle everything down, because in that way, we're constantly getting new cards coming in your new spots. But then what we also do is every so often, every couple of rounds, we'll like, if no one's bought a card, like after a while, like after like 2 rounds or a round or so, no one's bought the leftmost card, we discard it, we put it back on the bottom of the hero deck, and we shuffle everything over, just so our hero deck doesn't get, our HQ doesn't get clogged down with the same card. You know, like nobody's buying cards because nobody really wants that 4-cost card, and maybe there's 2 on the table, so you have 2 slots stuck with the cards that nobody wants. So we kind of do that. So that kind of makes us change up how this works a little bit, because you're going to constantly be rotating that stuff regardless. Alright, that is what we have. This has been a very long video, but we have some really cool stuff. We have the Berserk came back, which is always fun, because now you can combine it with some of the X-Men stuff, so I love when keywords come back. We have the enemy Berserk. Weapon X sequence is kind of, or plus sequence is kind of interesting as well. So both of them are going to kind of utilize you dictating your deck. The new characters are very interesting, very different, not ones I would have normally expected, like Weapon H or Marrow. just because they're not the most popular or around at the current time, but definitely always cool to get new characters. I love the new wounds. Anytime they add extra stuff like wounds, sidekicks, special bystanders, any of that stuff, I love. Just because it lets you change up the game that little bit of extra bit or add that little extra randomization to some of them side things. Alright, so that's what we got for this. Hope to see you guys in other videos. There is coming out next year in 2025 will be the base set 2.0. So I'm excited to show that off and show what's all new in that and what's changed. Until then, see you guys later. Bye.